Since ships were first made, humans have tried pushing the boundaries, making them larger, faster, and more fancy. And with the advent of cruising, there is now a financial incentive to make ships as big as they can. Giant floating cities that would hold thousands of people. Today, we're gonna dive more into depth about the giant cities that were never built. These are the never built megaships. No, not megaships, that's a completely different channel. First, let's start with the smallest one, the whale liner. This teardrop design was the brainchild of a New York Broadway set designer, and while it was never built, it did have profound effects on the way ships were designed. This ship was designed by a set designer and formed only one part of the design studio's more ambitious designs, including a bubble-shaped car, a 9-deck amphibious plane, and a vision for a future city called Futurama. And before you ask, yes, this is what inspired the show. In 1933, she was unveiled. She would have been 1,880 feet long, 549 meters long, and weighed 82,000 tons. The vessel would have enough room to carry only 2,000 passengers, and would be crewed by around 900, and apparently sail across the Atlantic in a day. And no, I did not elaborate on this. I have no idea how it would go that fast. But the reason for its shape was to cut down on drag, and a powerful engine could have allowed the ship to sail very fast. Though no company ever made the ship, the publicity for this meant that there would soon be an obsession with streamlined ships, influencing design until this very day. The next ship would have been a literal floating city, and had spaceships for some reason. The Phoenix World City is an interesting concept because, looking at this, it looks like it would be the largest ship in the world currently by far, and it would be, but not actually by that much. This was the brainchild of Klunt Kloster, founder of Norwegian Cruise Lines. Designed in 1983, it was to be a literal floating city with 3 towers and a unique approach to utilizing space. You can tell that this would never be built today because it actually had no inside cabins for passengers and would be slightly shorter but still taller than the Oasis of the Seas, but could only hold 5,000 people. You could fit a lot more people into a ship this big, which is why it would not be built today because companies want money, money, money. With the window and balcony cabins, she ended up using the inside space for amenities, with smaller restaurants and other areas below a giant 2-deck space known as downtown, with parks in the middle, and pools in one area, with more on the back, and a giant atrium. It would literally be a floating city, but only carrying 5,000 people, and a ship that was meant to be 380 meters long would make tickets expensive, and like the Norway, she would have 2 smaller tenders to take passengers, stored on the back, US Navy style. This would end up inspiring the Little Norway 1 and Little Norway 2 on the SS Norway, the only parts of the SS Norway that, by the way, still sail till this day. It's not known why Norwegian never built it, but in 2020, it was announced that a smaller version called Phoenix World Village was made, and so far has not been finished. The next ship is a ship that would be so large it would require its own Coast Guard, airport, and citizenship. Freedom Ship was a proposed condo cruise ship that can be described as basically a place for libertarians to live. This ship would be 1.3 kilometers long and 200 meters wide. It would hold 50,000 people, with 30,000 being permanent residents. And, most importantly, there would be no taxes, except for the price of housing, and a ticket to get on the ship. Monthly, which is like taxes. The ship would sail around the world and hosted schools, an airport on the top, parks, hospitals, and, of course, a casino, to pay money to the people that own the ship. Monthly, kinda like taxes. This ship was to be assembled in multiple blocks and would be powered by solar and wind energy. Where you would put solar panels on a ship that has an airport on the roof? Just don't ask questions. She would have rapid free transit like other ships on this list, and she was estimated to be built at the cost of $10 billion, and would of course be insanely expensive, both to live on and to build. It's due to this price, and due to the fact that it looks like a giant floating parking lot, that she was never built. In 2016, the project was now affiliated with Kathia Marine in India, but nothing since has happened. The next ship is one that had the major backing of a cruise company, and one that even had a full 3D animation for it. In 2004, Carnival began the secret Project Pinnacle. Few details were known, other than it would be the largest ship in the world, and was being made at Fincantieri. Later that year, the full concept was finally shown off to the public. The project was like nothing ever seen before. Combining two of the most talented naval architects in the world, Stephen Payne and Joe Farkas, the ship would have a lot of interesting features that would revolutionize the cruise industry, but a lot of these have been incorporated elsewhere. The ship would have featured a split superstructure at the stern, not that far in, but still split, allowing for a slide to go down the middle. Sounds familiar? This idea was taken to another level on the Oasis class and Global class, but one of the most insane ideas ever proposed on this cruise ship was the People Mover, a monorail meant to transport people across the ship. Yes, this ship would be so big it would require a train to travel around it. In the middle of the ship would have a section of track that could move up and down accordingly, and bring the ship up to the top section of the track with multiple sections of the ship. This is the only system that has ever been considered since then. Most people remember this project only by the monorail system, and it is pretty jarring when you first see it. At the top deck would have been multiple pools, which in itself is not special, but what is special is this big off rock at the wall on one side, where on one side would be a climbing wall, and the other side would be a slide that would transfer through the rock quite a lot. Another thing was the side promenades, which were so big they could hold a lazy river. Most ships today try to reinvent the cruise industry, but back then, Carnival was trying to reinvent the laws of physics by adding a lazy river that could have water moving upstream. Most cruise ships today have this sort of side promenade design, but Norwegian was the first to experiment with it. Though all of this seems cool, it was of course never built. Why? The basics was economics, in Europe mostly, but in reality, if economics worked out, it's unlikely it would have ever been built. At the time, the dollar to euro exchange rate was not very favorable, and most cruise ships were constructed in European shipyards. Carnival did not think economic climate was right for investing in such a big ship. Carnival was also focused on purchasing other existing cruise brands and expanding them, rather than information. This is why so many Conquest and Concordia class ships were being pumped out. They were realistically cheap, and, for cruise ship standards, made a lot of money. Carnival just wasn't in the right spot for innovation. These days, that's completely changed, and Carnival seems to be more interested in expanding its own line and making roller coasters on cruise ships. So in 2005, the project was cancelled. By today's standards, this seems relatively safe and could be built today. I mean, it was confirmed Carnival is making a ship scheduled for 2029 that will be the largest ship in the world, so maybe the Pinnacle will indeed rise again. So, why were none of these ships ever built? How does that slide defy gravity? And seriously, why are there spaceships on this thing? That's a very good question.